Hello and welcome to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Serman, and I'm so happy to have you join us here on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. This show is for those who are wanting to create financial wellness, and we're going to be taking different life cycles and we're going to explore them both financially and emotionally, because personal finances are usually not about the money. Rather, it's actually about the emotions associated with your finances. And the healthier we are emotionally, the better prepared we are to make sound decisions. We might be a little general in our discussion, but we would love to hear from you. So please, you can reach me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial, or you can post your comments and questions on YouTube, on Facebook, or any of the other dozens of platforms you might be listening to us on. Today's show is about divorce, and the divorce process really has a reputation for being contentious. We hear about these horror stories of mudslinging and people going to court. The statistics that I've seen actually are that less than 5% of cases actually go to court. So the big question is, do all divorces have to be rife with people behaving badly? Our topic today is whether an amicable divorce is fact or fiction. Our guest today is Tracy Moore-Grant, and that was my accent, an attorney who has been practicing for more than 20 years, is a founding partner at Patterson Moore Butler. She is a mediator, an arbitrator, a parent coordinator, a guardian ad litem, and quite honestly, so much more. Tracy knew there was a better way to do a divorce and the process behind divorce, and I think this was part of the passion in her creating the Amicable Divorce Network, which is a fantastic network of like-minded divorce professionals working towards a resolution and to making divorce process a better process. We are going to get into that more, and I encourage you to stick around because there's so many great things about that network. But Tracy, I'm really excited to have you on the show, and welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask if we can just start off a little bit with your background and get a feel for what did you see and how did you come up with this, Amicable Divorce Network?
So I've been an attorney, like you said, for over 20 years and a mediator for at least half of that. And the main problem that I was seeing, particularly as a mediator, was that there were these parties who had wanted to have a low conflict divorce, perhaps an uncontested divorce. They were like, we just want to resolve this simply and easily. But they had just gone on the internet and found attorneys, and unbeknownst to them, they were high conflict, high billing attorneys. Right. So they were like, what has happened to us? What has happened to our divorce? This is not what we wanted. We have spent so much time and money. And I wanted to develop a way to really explain and vet to the public the different types of divorce professionals so that they understand who they're hiring for their case.
And just a couple things there that are so relevant for people to understand. Your divorce is unique. Everyone's is. And you need to make sure the professionals you hire align with you and not their needs. A very, very important piece. There is a blog on my website, if you go to lifecycle.financial, on how to pick a divorce attorney. It does apply, and I think it's so relevant for people to really look at that because, as you said, are they better in court? Are they better at mediation? How do they work? And are you comfortable that this is your advocate for you? So just sometimes in two lines like that, you can really pick up on such important things. And divorces do range throughout the whole gamut. I think that's something that people need to realize. And you can have those, as we said earlier, that 10-year court battle, or they can be relatively quick and smooth. And we see some in the news and we never hear about others, like especially with the celebrities. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you, what makes a divorce amicable?
Well, that's interesting because it's actually the professionals that you hire. It is not the parties. And so when you're approaching divorce, parties are always going to have the same emotions, issues, and their issues can be simple or they can be complicated. Maybe they have a small business, maybe they have very complex assets and different challenges in this divorce. But when they hire resolution-focused professionals, those professionals can guide them towards getting the divorce resolved in an efficient and child-focused manner. Even with complex issues, when you're saying, help us use the exact same expert as opposed to paying two experts, help guide us on what the court would do here with our situation, as opposed to help me sling mud at the other party. So even though each party is getting their own independent legal advice and experts may be needed, and they may not, it could be a simple issue. Our focus is helping people resolve their case efficiently and move forward with their lives with as much money in their pocket as possible, as opposed to setting money on fire, basically, to go through a contested divorce.
Yeah, they often people are saying how expensive it is, but it really doesn't have to be. And I think another piece to that is there are so many divorce professionals that can help you through this. And the traditional or historical professional was your attorney. They were the ones that represented, they were the ones that drew up the documents and all the rest that happened. I got divorced 10 years ago, and just in the last 10 years, the specialties of what people have created, beyond the legal, the certified divorce financial analysts like myself, the CPAs that focus on divorce, whether it's lending, whether it's real estate, whether it's mortgage professionals. There are so many people now that are just really focused on the divorce process. And I think that's part of what you're speaking about, is having this team or potential team, you may not need everybody, that can work with you and for you to keep it down. And I just want to point out, I'm talking about adding all these professionals. It can actually end up being significantly cheaper adding them, because they know what they're doing in a much more efficient way than trying to get one person to do everything. I mean, would you agree with that, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, use the right tool for the problem. I think that's why we would take the team approach. So, for example, I've mentioned a small business. I don't know how to value a small business. I'm an attorney. We love to say we're not good at math. And so if the two attorneys agree, yes, we need to have this small business valued, the experts in our network are the same ones that would be hired in a high contest, high conflict litigation. They do the same work efficiently with the cooperation of both counsel, give their opinion as to the value of this business, as an example. But Amicable Divorce is unique in that we can build a team that's needed for the parties of anybody in the world. We have wellness professionals, we have a real estate professionals, we even have an interior designer that'll help people unspouse their house. We have specialists that talk about special needs children, and we'll do a vocational assessment. And so if there's a challenge that this family is facing, we have the correct tool in a vetted professional who is not going to raise the cost and conflict in the case, to help them get the information they need and work to the end point. So we really like to have a rich and diverse network of professionals so we can help our clients solve any problem that might arise.
So I got to ask this, because I've been curious about this myself, having known you for a while now. Everyone, like they say, has a book in them, but only very few people write a book. Everybody has an idea of how to do something better. You did it. Talk a little bit about that, right? It's one thing to say we can do it better. It's a whole different thing to create. You've created the Amicable Divorce Network, and it really is a great network. Talk about that kind of transition and the evolution into actually creating it, if you would.
Yeah, I hear all the time people say, well, I had this idea. And I'm like, well, you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I really kind of didn't
That's exactly it.
for it to be what it has become so quickly. We are coming up on our 5-year anniversary this year, which is so exciting. But when I look back at the initiation of our organization, it was supposed to be an Atlanta area networking group where we were going to put on a website, hey, these parties work well together if this is what you're, looking for. Right. And it just absolutely exploded with the categories of professionals, people wanting to join from other states. It's now international. We'll be doing our first training in the United Kingdom in April. And, it's just really growing from there. And it's developed not just into really the only network in the world that is vetting divorce industry professionals on these criteria. We vet every single member, right, experienced in family law, for having a resolution focus, and for engaging in fair billing practices. And anybody should want to work with those types of professionals in their divorce case. And so they have our seal, they're on our website. And then when two parties agree and say, yeah, I think we want an amicable divorce, there's an entire step-by-step out-of-court process. The parties move through quite efficiently, and it's all hosted on the Amicable Divorce Network technology platform, where everybody on the team can collaborate on the cloud and see the same information, so parties aren't producing the same information to 10 different people and getting frustrated. And so it's really grown. It starts with the vetting, and it ends hopefully with an efficient divorce result for the parties.
Okay, so that's like I could have planted you. I don't think I could have done it better, because I actually want to quote something from you guys, from the website. It says the Amicable Divorce Network is the only organization in the world that vets divorce professionals for being experienced, resolution-focused, and engaging in fair billing practices. Amicable divorce is a low-conflict, out-of-court process designed to help parties negotiate, reach a solution, and move forward efficiently and with a child-focused approach. And I love this. Not just the vetting of professionals' experience, which other organizations do, but there's also a vetting of their mindset. Are they going to fit this group with the idea of what we are trying to create? And that is incredibly unique beyond the vetting that you do. Yeah. You know, I see you sending out the emails. We've got an applicant. Are you guys comfortable? And what you do on your side, what the current members do. But it goes beyond just, okay, they got 3 years or 5 years experience. That's part of what I loved and resonated so strongly with me. And it's a major reason I joined the Amicable Divorce Network as a professional. And then I lucked out. I've got an incredible chapter with the people. We were talking about that earlier. You know, so I think those are all very, very important pieces that people should understand. It's not just that people, you know, paid a fee and they're on your website and, okay, you know, you luck out or you don't luck out if you get the right one. They really have been looked at. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now and I'm going to go back to the show. Sorry. But I mean, I think, you know, obviously I'm a very big fan of the network and being a part of it. So
well, thank you.
I think often, though, in a divorce, people, they throw terms around, if I can call it that. You know, and they're not always fully understood. So I'm going to ask you to talk about, it's a multi-part question. I can always repeat it.
All right.
What is an uncontested divorce? Because that's something that people say all the time. Is it uncontested? And then they have no idea what that means. What is a collaborative divorce? And how is the amicable divorce different? If you can.
So first part, what is an uncontested divorce? From the legal perspective, an uncontested divorce means the parties have negotiated everything themselves. They sat down at the kitchen table. They said, this is what we're going to do with our property, our children, our money. And they just need a professional to draw up that paperwork. A large population of people either are uncontested or want to be uncontested. So if they are uncontested, I always encourage them to hire somebody in our network to get the paperwork done for them properly. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in that paperwork, and our professionals will not use that as an opportunity to overbill, to create conflict in your family where there wasn't any. So that's the uncontested category. Then we get into the I want to be uncontested category, and that's where amicable is. We want to help you get there, but you need help. People don't know how to calculate child support or do alimony or address a 401k, things of that nature. And then you touched on collaborative, and a lot of people think the Amicable Divorce Network is a group of all collaborative professionals. Collaborative is different in a couple of key ways. The first is they do not vet professionals into their organization or to take their training. Anybody can sign up to take the collaborative training. And once they take the training, they're deemed to be collaborative. And we haven't really found that to necessarily be the case, although a lot of professionals do have that mindset, and that's great. We do remove people from our organization if somebody slips by. And unfortunately, we've had to remove a couple of collaboratively trained professionals. I call it sort of a wolf in sheep's clothing. They, you know, want to add this to their repertoire, but they really don't have the mindset for it. Collaborative is also different in that there is an exact set of professionals that must be hired for it to be collaborative. 2 attorneys, coaches, mental health, financial. With Amicable, the team, if even needed, is customized for the needs and the finances of the parties. So we want to address mental health, addiction, complex assets, special needs children, all these things that come up in cases. And so the team could be incredibly unique person to person. So there's no unnecessary professionals. The third is that in collaborative, the professionals all compromise confidentiality because they feel that a free and open discussion about all issues will really help the parties reach the end result. And I know many are very passionate about this point. We do not compromise confidentiality. So I still have attorney-client confidence with my client. Everybody does their normal role, mental health professional, whoever. And the difference is with collaborative, if the case for some reason needs to access the court system, all of the collaborative professionals have to excuse themselves and can't continue on with the case, meaning that this whole family has to start over from scratch, new retainers, new information, start building all over again. Because we don't compromise confidentiality, our professionals, if they choose to do so, can continue on with the case in the court system, and the family doesn't lose any ground. They can use all that information. They can, just maybe they have one issue that needed to be heard by the court, and it was just really complex, and they just couldn't get there. They can just say, we got it 80% over the finish line, but we're going to take this last issue either to like a binding arbitration, perhaps, or the court system, whatever is best for them. It doesn't happen a lot, though. We're pretty successful.
No, there is, but it is important because there are different ways, and it's important to really understand the process that you choose. Yes. And I don't want anyone to get the impression the collaborative process does have a place for the right people, and it's like court is not for everyone. Not every process is going to be the way that everybody, it's not a one size fits all is what I'm getting at. Something else I just want to add, you mentioned on the collaborative that should it not go forward or should resolution not be found through that process, that it's effectively kind of a wash and you got to start from the beginning. You also got to remember that there's certain professional services that you can't use those professionals for also. So I am collaboratively trained. I cannot be involved in a collaborative divorce in that process. And then they both like me, let's say, and they say, well, will you do my taxes for me? Mm-hmm. I can't do their taxes for them. Yeah. It's part of the process. And that's very actually specifically spelled out. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm trying to say is really understand whatever process and approach you're going to take. Mm-hmm. You should really understand and ask a lot of questions that really are going to fit your need, because I find one of the biggest ways my tax practice grows is, somebody else, the other party was always dealing with the taxes. I don't know that I want to use the same tax guy. Okay, here's an alternative. Mm-hmm. It's not that simple sometimes with some of the process, and just for people to really understand that and know that, I think is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an Amicable Divorce Network board. And so we have a chairperson that sits over each industry. And so they would guide the rest of the network and their members on what their particular ethical obligations might be in regards to their role in the case. But I've heard, I'm not a financial professional, so that's why we have all these different professionals to assist. I had heard that, you've spent some time with some people, you've identified with them, you already got a lay of the land. And unfortunately, with the collaborative process, you couldn't continue to help them. So
and at that point,
restraint. Yeah, we're a lot about client choice. You ultimately choose who you want to work with.
Right. And when you think about it also from a finance perspective and tax perspective, if I've just gone through all of your financials and I've helped you create a package or suggested potentially a package, and I know your incomes and I know the children and I know who's getting to claim, I'm probably the perfect tax professional, right? Yeah. So I intimately know everything about you financially. But again, I'm not knocking it because, as I said, I'm collaboratively trained. I have been involved in that. I've worked as a neutral. But I'm really just telling people, be aware of what you're getting into, because it's harder to get out of something often than get into something. That's really all I'm saying.
It's really important to that's what we're all about, is education. Know that there's different ways to get divorced.
Correct.
And, really figure that out before making a knee-jerk reaction and hiring somebody that just because they were advertising on Google.
Correct. And, I caution people all the time There's a lot of tremendously good information out there. Just make sure it actually pertains to you.
Yeah.
My classic example is I had somebody call and they said, I think I actually want to get separated, legally separated, because it sounds like it's almost like a trial period for divorce. That's how they put it. And I said, I like your logic, except you live in Texas. Texas they don't recognize legal separation. So it's very important to understand and put it into your context of your divorce. And sometimes you need a professional to help you with that, but just be aware of that as well, because there is amazing information out there and it doesn't pertain to you. It might lead you in the wrong direction. I am going to ask quick, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find you? Because we do have to go to a break in a minute and pay some bills.
Yeah, if you are a professional or you're a member of the public that wants to get more information about our organization or process, you can email me at Tracy, and that's spelled TRACY, at amicableddivorcenetwork.com. That goes right to me.
I encourage everybody to go to the website, or if you have a need, reach out to Tracy, and we will be back in about 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Our topic today is amicable divorce. Is it fact or fiction? And we have Tracy Moore-Grant joining us today, and she is the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. I do want to cover just a few of the things that we've already touched on, which is a lot. You shared a little bit of your background, that you've been an attorney over 20 years, that you've been involved in the divorce process, realized there was a better way to do it, and actually did something about it, which is very unique. We spoke a little bit about what is an amicable divorce. We spoke about uncontested. We spoke about collaborative, the pros and cons, about the Amicable Divorce Network, about understanding the process you choose, which I think is so important, as we said. We spoke about having the professional team and aligning, making sure that they are aligned with you, that you don't have to figure out how to align with them. And I think just talking about the professionals, I think it works right into probably my next question, which I can ask you is, there are different approaches, and there are different ways that we can go through. There's mediation, there's court, there's, attorneys that just kind of hash it out between each other. Obviously, picking the right professionals is very, very important. Knowing I think we're going to go through mediation, not court. Don't pick a litigator, right? Those kind of things. So you touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask you to kind of go into it a little bit more detail. What is the Amicable Divorce Network process? How does it work? And it's almost like orientation, a mini orientation somebody's going to go through, right? This is what you can expect when you go through the process,
Yeah. So the first step is we ask each party to hire attorneys in the Amicable Divorce Network. That is key. If they're not both in the network, it is not an amicable divorce. Right. And the reason is because only our members have taken our training and have access to our technology platform and are vetted for wanting to actually keep it low conflict. So right. Only the amicable members sort of have, the keys to the gate. And so once you have two amicable attorneys, they actually have a planning meeting and they talk about, what do we need to do in this case? Do we need any experts? What is our timeline looking at? And it creates the structure and the bones for the case. And so they look at things. Our guide is always to try to have mediation within 90 days of a case being initiated. So during that first meeting, they usually set up a mediation. Generally, if you guys settle it without the need for a mediation, it can be canceled. But if you do need it, it's already on the calendar, as opposed to getting to that 90-day period and then realizing you need a mediation. It takes so long to herd all the cats on the same day. During that period of time, they're gathering information and assessing that information. It could be they need a pension valued, they need to get some statements. And so parties do exchange information and documents under oath, so that they can rely upon those representations to make settlement negotiations and to make a good agreement. And so then the final step is resolving the case. You touched on this initially, and you're dead on. 95% of cases never go to court, never see the inside of a courtroom. Yet people are hiring litigators who then do not work through the process efficiently. They're getting 5 years of records that nobody needs. They're taking depositions that you will never use. They are preparing for a court case by slinging mud against the other person in a way that is never going to see the light of day. And it's the most expensive way to get divorced. Whereas 95% of cases technically resolve it outside the court system. They're not seeing the judge. It's also far better for parties to take resolution into their own hands, to figure out what's good for them, what works for them, what they can live with, what's good for their family, and can really get a customized result. When parties kick it to the court system, you are saying the stranger judge to your family is a better decision maker about your children, your family, your finances, your home than you are. And I have never really found that to be the case. You don't know what you're walking into that day. That judge could be in a good mood, a bad mood, have certain, attitudes or, things about them that is you're deferring to their judgment. So we really help that 95%, hope to increase that. I'd love to see that get to 99%.
I agree.
Get it resolved, not just out of court, but also efficiently. Plan for a resolution. Do not plan for a litigation.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to add a couple things that I think I've experienced anyway. Number one is, just because they are amicable and low conflict doesn't mean that the professionals that you're using are a pushover. Right. I think that's a very important thing people understand. These are, again, they vetted. They are professionals with high regard. I, as a member of the network, get to say yay or nay on certain people when they come through because of my experience working with them. So I think that's one thing. The other thing, and I've said this before, I've said this to clients, I've said it on the show, but it's always very, very important. People sometimes think if I go to court, it's so obvious I'm going to win because of my story, whatever it is. Number one is you don't always get to tell your whole story. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, as you said, they are human. The judges come in. Your name is Jane or John Doe. And you know what? They knew somebody in high school whose name was Jane or John Doe, and they couldn't stand them. Whatever it is, right? There could be a million reasons, but they are human and they are biased sometimes. Yeah. I love it. I mean, and attorneys will tell you this all the time. You can go, some of the court systems, the county courts will have 5 or 6 judges that deal with family law, and you can get 3 or 4 different answers out of 5, people based on what their thoughts are, their decisions. It's not always cut and dry. And the truth is, if you know you're right, just because somebody else says it doesn't change whether you're right or wrong. Right. So why spend that money? Why not be efficient? Why not get through it quicker, less stress, less tension, and all the rest that comes with that?
Exactly. I can't agree more. You don't know about judges. You don't know what their, thoughts are, what their morning has been like. And I litigated for many years, about 18 years of my practice. And there's no guarantee. I always would have to tell that to my client, like with even the most simple thing, like maybe a child support calculation. Who knows what the judge is going to do? You are saying, you decide for us, and right. You're giving them all the power over your family. And so I think it's much better for parties to take the reins themselves. I
agree 100%. And we've spoken a lot about the professionals. On the other side of it, I think for the most part, the network, we want to work with good people as well. I went to a networking lunch once, and I sat next to a guy who was a criminal attorney, and I looked at him after, 20 minutes, half hour. I said to him, we deal with the exact opposite kind of people. And he kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? I deal with criminals. You deal with divorcees, right? It's like, what do you? So I said to him, no, you're missing my point. you deal with bad people trying to behave well. I deal with good people not always behaving well, sometimes badly, right? That's what I meant. No one really wants to get stuck in this process. No one wants to, drag on forever. So I'm going to ask, what advice can you give someone going through the Amicable Divorce Network or just in general through the divorce process?
So if you're going through the divorce process and you haven't made any decisions yet, I think the first thing to do is to educate yourself. Of course, I'm an advocate for amicable divorce, but you need to look at uncontested, you need to look at amicable, you need to look at litigation, and also really be asking the right questions to attorneys that you might be hiring. Always meet with three. You will see, just like a judge, the three are probably going to give you three different answers on the questions that you ask. But always, ask the attorney, tell them what your goals are for the case, but ask them, are they realistic? Are my goals realistic? Can I achieve these things? And get some really good advice from them on that. And second is to make sure that you tell the attorney your budget. If you need to say, I can only spend $5,000 on this divorce, are my expectations reasonable for $5,000? What can we achieve for my budget? And, go through that, because otherwise it's sort of like a blank check that you're writing to somebody, but you need to be on the same page financially with your attorney and have them to be aware of your budget. And also make sure that you keep in mind your goals for the case, whether it is, I want to keep this house, that's most important. I want to have custody of my children, that's most important. I've had people where receiving an item of personal property was what was most important to them. They really were passionate about it. So be clear about your number one goal, but also remember that yourself. Divorce is difficult, whether it's amicable or not. It is the biggest life change. It impacts every part of your life, your home, your finances, your children, where you're living, everything. And so do get the right people to assist you, and also take their advice. They've done this a million times and they can guide you in the right manner, and let the expert do the experting. And just sit back and take that advice and go from there. But do make sure that it feels like you're on the same team with any attorney that you hire. If it feels uncomfortable, if you feel like they're doing all the talking, they're telling you what to do, and that doesn't sit right with you, you have every right to pick a professional that feels like a teammate. And that's how it should feel. The attorney is really working at your direction after they advise you regarding your choices.
I'm just going to add one piece to that. One of the things I do with my clients is I run through their priorities and values. That's actually one of the first things I do. And I think it's important they understand and identify all of them. And as you said, whether it's the house, to do with the children, the personal items that maybe are of significance, whatever it might be in those respects, right? But then I do the same exercise and say to them, pretend you're your spouse. And then we actually align as to where are the difficult conversations going to be? What are their priorities that we can use to negotiate better for? Things like that become important, because you cannot live the exact same life, right, or very, very seldom, because you've got two homes basically on the same income. Something's got to be given up. And so understanding what your values and your priorities are really can keep you focused in a very difficult time to be focused when things are very emotional.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I'm going to ask, how do people learn more about the Amicable Divorce Network, the benefits of using it, and the professionals that are involved?
You can go to amicableddivorcenetwork.com, and we have lots of literature, resources, a great blog, and you can search for professionals in your area. At the very top, it says membership directory. It lets you sort by state, county, particular industry that somebody is in. We do limit membership based on a particular population of that area, so that one area is not super saturated with one member class in particular. And you can search that. We are global, so we have members in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom.
And I encourage people to go, even if you're just contemplating at this point. There's some great information out there for you to start understanding some of the things that you should be thinking about, some of the roles, the responsibilities of people, and yourself, by the way. People going through a divorce have roles and responsibilities of their own that they need to go through. Okay, we do unfortunately have to wrap up. But how can people get in touch with you again? I know you shared it earlier, but in case somebody tuned in a little late, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you should they need to?
They can email me directly at Tracy, and that's spelled Tracy at amicableddivorcenetwork.com. And that comes right to me, and I should be able to get you pointed in the right direction or answer your question.
And I encourage people to do that as well. So please go to the network, the website, should I say, amicableddivorcenetwork.com, or if you need specific guidance, you can reach out to Tracy as well. And Tracy, again, I appreciate you joining. Clearly, it's not a myth. Clearly, there is a way that you can go through this. And it really is so much better because it's not just the divorce. It's what comes after that becomes also very important. If you got a co-parent for the next 20, 30, 50 years with somebody, is this the way that you want to go through life? Or do you want to be an amicable relationship where you can do it together in the best way for the children? I think is one of the many things to consider. I am Hirsch Serman, your host for the Financial Wellness Hour. Thank you again for joining us. Please reach me at my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. And thank you, CC Schatz. I always appreciate all that you do behind the scenes. Makes it so much easier for us to have a discussion, have some fun, and to learn things. I look forward to you joining me on my next show. Have a great week, and thank you again for joining.